we're only on episode 2 of Halo, and it's already getting a little painful.
It is getting really painful. It was one of the most boring episodes I've ever seen. Genuinely speaking.
Almost nothing happened. It was all walking and talking.
Talk about filling an episode with nothing.
Yeah.
Honestly, you'd be better entertained watching The Real Housewives of whatever city. Sincerely.
At this point, Boba Fett was more entertaining than this.
Oh, man. And that's a low, too.
This episode, and this gets me really worried about the rest of the series, like what they're planning on doing. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem that you and I have talked about for months now, that they don't understand that what most people want is Master Chief battling aliens.
David, you mean to tell me the video games that people have come to know and love, that they don't want to see that? They want to see something entirely else, something entirely different?
Yeah, they want to see this guy calling himself Master Chief, not even walking around in the armor for most of the episode.
And being sad. Ooh, who am I?
Acting doesn't get any better this time. I mean, we can just kind of get into it.
The back of my neck that suppresses my emotion. Connect with me, audience. Connect with me. Dude.
Oh, man.
It's just like, come on. It's not even an exaggeration to say that there are probably high schoolers working on this script. That's how bad it is.
Dude, I don't know what there's like no. We'll get into it. There's no character development.
No character development, dude. It's like I was expecting to see some character development from the first episode, right? I'm like, okay, and then they just don't understand what they're doing, and that's why it's been in production hell.
Yeah, they dropped Quan Ha's like whole thing about her mother dying.
Yes, they did.
Doesn't even mention it. Like, she's legitimately upset at the end of this episode when Master Chief leaves.
And now all of a sudden,
and she's
like
been
at the end of the episode 2, she wants to go with him.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense. All right, so we're going to talk about it. You can see this, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right, perfect. So we open on this shot again. If they're reminding us once again that he's got these battle scars going on, and this is actually a flashback to when. Do you remember did they say how old he was? This was just in the past, right?
This was just in the past.
They said like 14 years ago or something like that. I don't even know if there was
something when he was a wee lad.
There was a mention of it. Trying to see if I had a.
I'm sorry, I'm not a biologist, so I can't say wee lad.
22 years ago. So here we have a young Master Chief again. Something that I think I've seen some people say probably would have been the better way to go with a couple of these episodes, at least giving some more background. Not that we're about to really get any here. Again, he's just a kind of normal kind of guy in the Marines or whatever. He's got these scars, and he was like contemplating something weird, right? He's like thinking about it. Well, it turns out one of his friends is trying to leave, and he's asking him to come with him. He has let me see if I can get a shot of it. He's got this awful prosthetic.
Yes.
They did not do a good job on this thing.
You mean to tell me they don't care about the Halo lore that take time to do things well? There's this shot that I'm going to show. I got to hide you for a second. No, that's fine.
There's a shot of his arm right here where you can see where he's talking to him, and this is kind of that visualization of like what the IMSI is that?
I think he got it like burned really bad or something.
Yeah, it almost looks like a grenade went off, and you can see metal inside of it. And that's
he holds it up at one point.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
It's all good.
I don't think we're gonna get a shot of it. Oh, there it is. There's a little bit of a shot of it. You can see it later. Oh, there we go. That's perfect.
There we go.
Right
perfect.
there. You can see
Look how fake that looks.
It's all blown up. It doesn't look very good.
Nope.
Yeah, it's like definitely some CG going on in there, and it looks all like bloated and stuff, which is really weird. It feels unproportional to the guy himself.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It does.
Just a little bit odd. And then, of course, they're showing this because he's going to show up later in the episode. Anyway, was there anything else you wanted to mention in this part? I mean, there's not much to it. Like, Chief gives them like 5 minutes, and they make a big deal out of it, and it comes back later on.
Yeah, big old fart nugget. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Just nothing to really be spoken about. It just really plain, generic dialogue. I think even generic would have been better than that.
So
nothing compelling about it. Nothing. Just I think.
Yeah, we don't know who any of the. We don't have any connection to anyone, so we don't even get like a real insight. Like you get this idea that Master Chief is like a stickler almost, but there's something about him. Something inside of him that makes him feel like he's doing the wrong thing or whatever. But we're not given a lot to go on, right?
He's a bad guy and a villain at the same time. I mean, and a victim at the same time, right?
Yeah,
so it's confusing because I'm going to say this because I know I said it in the first episode that from the onset of the first episode they let you know screw the fans of the video game, their own demographic, right? So they're saying we don't need you.
Yeah.
And so from that point, we're not going to keep rehashing those points. We've already stated them. Let's just judge it on its merit of being this Kelvin Silver Star Trek timeline that they're doing when Thanos snapped, everything went to crap, right?
When Harambe died.
Yeah. And
this is what we were left with.
Yeah, so if you like good storytelling, and you like the Halo video games too, don't watch this show.
Yeah.
But we're going to review it for you and suffer through it and trudge through it. And
we'll talk about it. Hit the main points. There's not many in this one.
Again, and here's the thing. We were talking about before we started. Even if they wanted to flesh out some original stuff, that's okay. Nobody's saying you can't do that. No one is saying you can't do that. But you need to stick to the themes and the core of what made this a beloved franchise. You have a base there to get money from. You're a business at the end of the day, right? You want to get money.
Well, and you also have to make it interesting, which is severely lacking.
And what was it, Forward into Dawn or whatnot? The original fan fiction Halo show.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's canon.
The movie. Oh, it is? Okay.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
What did it do? It ticked all the boxes, right? It had female commanders, right? It had people of color in it, all that stuff. But it was done well, right?
Right.
It's not the most amazing thing, but it's certainly a lot better than this.
Yeah. So,
but with this, it's like I think you hit the point on the nail on the head just a few minutes ago when you said that it would have been a better job to have either used the first episode or this episode to build his backstory, right? Instead of like getting flashes, touches the Halo.
The thing that I kept thinking about with the show as I watched it, because there was nothing of importance going on in this episode for the most part, was Arcane again. And Arcane spent the first 3 episodes building up part of the cast. And then they spent at least another episode building up a few more characters, or building everyone up again in episode 4 once they all reached semi-adulthood, right? I think there's like 7 or so years that pass in between episode 3 and 4 in Arcane.
Right.
So you have your whole setup, right? And every character in that is at least developed to some degree, or they're in a good place to continue the rest of the season. This, we get introduced. I mean, dude, there's like 15 characters in this.
So many characters
that are like the main people, right? And we saw the villain who we'll get to in a minute, or at least he's one of the villains this season.
Of them, right?
One of 2 villains,
the
both
other
of
one's
which
the protagonist too.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, Quan's gonna be the one. I wrote it down.
Well, that's not who I meant. I meant antagonist. Did I say protagonist?
No, you said antagonist.
I meant antagonist.
The Chief is the antagonist and the protagonist.
I was gonna traditionally, like what they're going for without understanding what they're doing.
Right.
Both of them have appeared in both episodes 1 and 2 now, and all we know is bad British guy
and bad alien
bad
woman.
Blonde lady. Yeah.
That works for the aliens.
And her and Chief have some sort of similar connection, which I think I called, which is obvious, right? But it's
did see that coming.
I also think I'm starting to think too, dude, and I could be totally wrong. We still have 7 more episodes to go. Quan might actually just be a ride along for this entire show. She's
That's gonna
done
be so
nothing
funny.
because everyone was like, well, she's probably going to be like the key to everything or whatever, right? But they set up Master Chief in this episode as the key to everything.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, he has the power over it's still a lame concept at this point. Everybody uses it all the time. Oh, here's a it's a literal key. It's like a cipher, right?
Yeah.
And
it's so boring, man.
Yeah,
it's so boring. They had it to just Master Chief, aliens, boom, guns, go.
Oh, here it is. So he and Quan escape, and they get to this planet, right? And of course, the guy from the opening shows up, whose name I don't even remember, if I'm being totally honest.
Soren.
Is it Soren?
Yeah, Soren. That's his name. I wrote it down.
So they get to him, right? And this is just one of these things I wanted to point out because it was irritating me for most of the day. So they get onto this trolley, right? Right here. They're about to get into this trolley. Did you recognize the song or the music that was playing right there?
No, I didn't.
Do you want to know what I think it is?
What is it?
I'm pretty sure it's the Stranger Things theme sped up. Because I would listen to it a couple times and I was like, okay, I want to know. And I was like, what is this? I was like, I recognize this tune, right? And then I got on YouTube and I looked up the Stranger Things theme and I thought about it. I was like, well, maybe I can play both of them back to back so people can hear it. It's pretty muddled in this. Like, it's just really loud. Everything's really loud and you can't hear the background music very well. But people can go and find it. This is about 14-ish minutes into the episode. And then you can find the theme of Stranger Things. And Stranger Things, it's really slow, right? I'm terrible with music, but it's kind of got this like ba 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 like, and this it's that, but it's faster. It's like they sped it up by like 2 or 3 times and put it in there, and I was like, holy crap! It's like taking music from other people.
Did you think everything still looked too clean on the New
Look at
World
this. Yeah.
Rebel?
This guy works in like a mining facility on an asteroid. Yeah.
I've never been to an asteroid, but I imagine they're probably quite dirty, especially if you're mining.
So they go through this whole thing, and they're trying to set him up as like a character or whatever.
Then he takes off his suit.
Oh, look at this. Yeah, here's Master Chief, everybody. Here is your Master Chief. UNSC.
Master Chief.
Yeah, Master Chief here. And he spends a good majority of the episode like that. Well, here he is
Yeah.
He's going to spend most of the rest of the episode in the similar like undergarment type thing. Yeah. So, and then here's Soren's wife, who is literally just wife, right? Did we even get like a name for the character?
I don't know. Soren's wife.
And then we get some more with the Covenant and our other. And if you know,
listen,
one of our
I'm
antagonists.
Not into the lore. I know Halo enough to know the Covenant wouldn't be working with any humans, nor would they have rescued one, because with the connection of even to Halo, to the ring, and all that stuff, because she's a blessed one or whatnot.
It makes no sense.
No sense, dude.
And what I was thinking is that they wanted a antagonist that the audience could relate to. That's my theory. And it made sense that they would go in this direction or whatever.
You know what would have been way more interesting than that if they want to do that exact same thing, but with Covenant. So give Covenant a backstory, right? To make it more nuanced, to see their perspective and where they're coming from. Or in my preferred version, just make them, hey, they're an alien race. Don't even worry about that and just, relate to the good guys, right?
Yeah, and that's the problem is the show feels really like stretched really thin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you have the rebels, right? So you have this whole plot line that I thought was only going to be in the first episode, and then they were going to move on from Magical, and now Magical it gets talked about multiple times in this episode. It's like going to be, I guess, a recurring thing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Marines and the Spartans and everything going on there. You have a bunch of characters in there. Then you've got the Covenant, right? And now we have this other asteroid planet with more characters on it. And so it's kind of one of those things that's like, y'all, what?
Too much going on at one time. Simple.
Just simple. We want something simple. So yeah, I don't.
That's what Arcane did so great, right? Mm-hmm. Like you just said, it built up the main characters for three or more episodes, and then it gave some development to some of the side characters, but not a ton. but you're able to follow everything because the main focus was on the main characters until certain events started taking place, right?
And some of people's favorite characters from Arcane are the side characters, the ones that didn't get nearly as much screen time.
And that's what you want, right?
Yeah. So, now they're having this meeting about Master Chief, and the doctor brings up Cortana, who I was actually just kind of interested to see in this episode. You don't get her in this one. So we're now going to be like 3 episodes in before Cortana actually becomes a thing.
Yep.
So they go on and on about that. And then we get our first look at the British villain.
Antagonist.
Who, again, it was one of those things that he plays a villain in everything he's in.
Yep.
So, yeah, we were just like...
but they don't, at least so far, it doesn't seem like they're going to try and use him in a way that you can relate to him.
This was it. This is all we really got of him.
Yeah.
Was this? I think there's like one more scene where Quan-A's looking at a computer monitor with him on it, but we get nothing about the guy. We don't know his
motivations.
He didn't like Quan-A's father, right? And that's like the only motivation that we have. And he wants to
something
work
has to
with,
do with that high plant. The plant that gets you high.
Maybe, yeah.
Hydrogen is, I think, or something. I don't know what they're calling it, but
he's working with the Marines.
Yeah, the UNSC, United Nations Space Command.
I have like every time I try to say that, I have like dyslexia. It's like UNS. Here they are
just call
again.
It Space Command. Just call it United States Space Force.
Yeah,
we know what you're going for.
And again, you're right. This is a world that what they're setting up, it feels like it should be very lived in. And it's just clean, man. Super clean.
CGI is bad too.
Yeah, this doesn't look too good. And here's the thing, and I wanted to bring this up because I heard a lot of people talking about that, which they're not wrong, right? It's not good. It would be forgivable if this was actually good.
Yes, people can overlook bad CGI and cosplay if it's a good story.
Yeah, the best example of that is probably Doctor Who. That show has not had good we're getting to this part. That show hasn't had like very good tech behind it. Like the CG's always been a little like weird, and they've relied sometimes on practical effects, which has always looked a lot better. But people love that show, and they love the story, and they love the characters so much that they overlook certain aspects of it because there's other things that are so standout.
Yeah,
right.
It's the same thing with me with Harry Potter. I can overlook certain facts. I don't think they're the best movies ever made, but because the story is good, there's certain aspects of each movie I can overlook.
Right. Yeah. And that happens with a lot, where you're like, okay, well, this isn't that great, but everything else going on in this I really like, so I can overlook that. And that's the thing about television is usually their budgets have to get spread out more. So CGs may not look as good or whatever the case may be. Or again, the budget might just be lower. So it's always that really interesting thing where I heard people harping on that really bad. And I'm like, you're not wrong. It's like, but that's also coming from people who like Doctor Who or they like these other shows. And it's like, this stuff's not really all that much better than in some of these other productions.
Yeah.
And the reason people are forgiving and they don't think about it when those shows are on is because
that's a good point.
They're good.
And I'd like to add as well, I think another reason why it's bad, right? Or the reason why it's bad, it could be better, is because they don't have a love for what they're doing. They don't have a love for Halo.
Agreed.
And therefore, because they don't have a love, it comes across in everything. Bad costume, bad design, bad CGI, bad the settings aren't even that good, right? That they do practical. So yeah,
we're actually kind of flying through this because, again, like we were telling everybody, nothing happens in this episode. We really have not skipped a whole lot.
Nope.
Right? They show up on this planet. You get a couple scenes with the Covenant and the UNSC back on Reach. A majority of the episode is spent with Chafe here, and then we're about to go into this like quasi prison. And this is basically the end of the episode. And the weirdest thing about this, man, is I kept waiting around for an action scene to happen.
And nothing happened.
And we really didn't get anything in this episode. And I
kind of thought they were leading up Master Chafe to fight the other Spartan Chafes.
Well, and that's the thing is now I'm confused because they are in the episode 2 for a few minutes. And you have, so that's what I'm saying is, yeah, we have all these characters.
He just ends up going back to Reach.
Yeah, pretty much. They fly out, right? And we'll get to it, but like at the end of the episode, he leaves and he purposely gets captured by them, and that's it. They go and they come back, and it's like, had they just stayed there, he was going to come back anyway. So it feels like a complete waste of time for them to do what they did. I don't feel like this added anything to any of these characters.
It was a waste of an episode.
Yeah, it felt
just
like filler. It felt like filler. And every time a scene would end, dude, I was like, oh, is this the end of the episode? And it's like, oh, no, more? Oh, is this the end of the episode? Because it faded to black like 5 or 6 times, and I kept waiting for the end credits to pop up, and they never did. And so, or obviously they did, but it was like, what? And then it finally did. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like,
dude,
thank God this is over.
I didn't know, so I stayed and watched so I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh, this must be it. Nope. Nope. And then finally on the last one, I'm like, is this it? And so I was like, but I got to stay and watch these commercials just to make sure. And I finished all like 5 to 8 commercials there were. And then it's just credits. I'm like, daggum it.
Bro, you should just use my account. I'm not paying for commercials, or I'm paying for commercials for the.
Okay. I'll just use your account.
You'll get through it quicker.
So painful, man. So painful.
Oh, I can't do it. I can't do commercials anymore.
And then there was a long scene that was like 30 or 45 seconds of him walking onto the ship, getting ready to load and fly away. I'm like, bruh.
They had to
10 seconds max.
They had to hit that time limit for the episode. That it happens all. There's notoriously there are these really bad movies out there that a lot of them have these weird filler scenes for like 10 minutes because the runtime for the movie wasn't long enough, and it has to hit, I think, at least like 70 minutes. And so they'll get to like 60, and so they're like, crap, it's not long enough for the release. And so they'll just throw in random stuff of people either like talking or walking around, and it makes no sense. It feels completely disconnected. So I'm not surprised that could have been the case. So anyway, here they are. They're about to go see a guy who got abducted by the Covenant and survived for reasons like we don't know. He never explains why, which would have at least been something kind of interesting. You could have literally, that's development for the Covenant. If you're giving a reason for why this specific guy managed to get out, that adds just a bit of more of an element to the aliens.
Especially, you probably have to find out. He assume that he was probably abducted by the Elite Covenant, the elites, right?
Yeah, because that seems to be who they're setting up as who goes and like takes people. We haven't seen like, and that was the thing is like I was kind of excited at the very least to see the other Covenant aliens. And I don't know, maybe at this point in the lore they're not there because I know they're technically different races. So like the grunts and the jackals and there's like these big berserker guys. Their names are slipping my mind. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You have to like shoot them in the back or whatever. They have like orange spot on their back. But yeah, all we've really seen is the elites and then the guys in the plastic floaty chairs. I'm pretty sure. So I would like to see more of a variety. Maybe they don't have the budget for it though. And it sucks. It sucks too, dude, because one of the other things that I noticed about this episode that makes me wish this was good, is knowing what happens to Reach, knowing what this all leads to, that would work for me even better if the show was actually good, because that in a way gets you emotionally invested in it. That doesn't take away from people who have never seen the show before. And this is something I've heard a lot about, something like Arcane, where there's a couple characters in that who and I don't know, I haven't looked ahead or any of that because I just want to stick with Arcane. I don't want to get spoiled on anything. I'd rather just
figure it out
as it comes along. But with something like this, I know where a lot of it's headed, and one of the ways that Arcane did it is like they would introduce characters who certain things are going to happen in the future with them for like, I assume bad reasons, like they're going to become villains or they're going to do terrible things to other people or whatever the case may be. And so introducing characters in this that were either involved in the fall of Reach, which some of them that are in it are, but the characters that certain things are going to happen to, if they were likable, or if they made them even someone like Dr. Halsey, who's like kind of a terrible person. She like abducted the kids to put them through all these experiments or whatever, which I assume they're going to get into at some point. I think they were hinting about it in one of the flashbacks. But again, if she was like likable, right, and they were building up these characters that, okay, despite some of the things that they've done, as characters, you still feel for them. Like
you want me to tell you how it is?
Yeah.
What's the best con man or woman?
The best con man?
Yeah, the best con man and the best con woman is the person who gets you to like them. Right? I've heard cops and lawyers speak about how, the ones that they hated arresting or putting in jail were the ones that they liked. They knew they were a con man or woman.
Fair enough.
But the reason why they're able to trick you is because they portray someone who's likable. That's what you got to do with this, right? And
that's acting. That's acting. That's literally acting.
Exactly. It's acting. And so again, with even these villains, and sometimes you don't necessarily have to have it with every villain, like if it's an alien, right? But with these different characters, being able to portray, even though they have these flaws, right? Being able to portray this side of them that, okay, it gets you invested in them. You can see where they're coming from, even though they're wrong. And so I just think, the other point in getting an audience so emotionally connected is if you try to stick to the dynamic of the video games, because the first Halo story was great. When Bungie had it, right? When Bungie had it, great storyline.
Yeah.
And so I think if they would have stuck to that and then just fleshed out some things on their own, then you have that engagement from your audience already.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm getting at is if, this is hinting at Halo. They're not very subtly either. I guess they don't have to be too subtle, but they're like talking about this ring or whatever and that there's something mysterious about it and it could be used as a weapon. And you're like, okay, cool. In a better show, I'd be like, okay, cool. That's something to look forward to. Fall of Reach. That's something to look forward to. I wonder what characters they're going to bring in who are specifically involved in that. Will any of the Spartans from Halo Reach, the game, actually show up? Are we going to get references to some of this other stuff? I'd be completely down for all of that if this was good.
Yep.
And that's the problem, is that the first episode, some action in it, at least, that was kind of a distraction for a few minutes. This episode, just nothing but people chatting about nothing.
Which is fine to have episodes of people chatting and dialoguing, but
right. If it works.
When it's good.
Yeah.
This is not good.
The movie Marriage Story is literally about two people talking in rooms a lot. And it's
Fellowship
great.
of the Ring.
Yeah.
It's primarily dialogue.
Yeah. And that's probably my personal favorite of the movies. And that's the thing, is that those, if the exposition is delivered correctly, if it makes sense, if it's not just there to fill in something, if your actors are good, it all comes together. But that just wasn't the case for this. So anyway, they talk to that guy. He basically says
Jibber
that,
jabbers.
and they talk about how Master Chief is the key, and then the Covenant do the same thing with old girl, which I gotta try to avoid that one. I don't think we would get hit on YouTube for it.
For what?
There's like minor backed away nudity in the episode. She's like,
right.
She like randomly takes off her clothes, and you're like, what are you doing?
I didn't know. I didn't realize it was like back away nudity. I was like, oh, it just must be some kind of suit or something.
Hang on, we
like
can
that.
zoom in real quick. No, I'm kidding.
Zoom in.
For YouTube, we will try not to do that. So they get the key back or whatever, and she's gonna get the stuff started with Cortana. I thought Cortana showed up one more time in this episode, but maybe not. Maybe it was towards the end. Actually, it might be one of the last shots.
Good night. There's just too many characters.
There's
in this
so
thing
many
that
characters.
They did a bad job of no storytelling for either of them. No backdrop to understand their motivations. They think like lines here and there will do it, but
yeah, Kwana, here's
evil white man,
evil British white man again. Yeah, one of the things I heard from, I think it was Gary, and I liked the way that he said this because we had kind of mentioned it last week, but I didn't know the best way to put it. He said there are a suspicious number of women leaders in this show.
Yes,
it's not that people mind that they're there. It's that, hey, why is it like everyone?
Yeah. You even got a woman leading the Covenant aliens.
Yep. So
that's the part that puts it over the top. It's like, okay, guys, like, in every major.
Look how sad he looks.
I know. In every major position for this, right, with the exception of the lead character, because they have to, it's a woman. no problem having
pretty much
female leads, right? But
so yeah,
seems over the top.
Then he goes through his like sad boy feelings,
sad boy emo Robert Pattinson feelings,
being manipulated by this the other one of the other villains in the show.
You know what happened is that what they didn't explain well is before the show began, Master Chief went into the Black timeline where he talked to Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne and Batman, and it's like, okay, got some pointers, and came back to this one.
Oh, I don't want to derail this conversation, but did you see the deleted scene from the Batman with burn victim Joker? We're gonna have to talk about that on the podcast. We're gonna have to talk about that on the podcast. Anyway, so yeah, the episode ends with the Lady Covenant person, human,
Lady Gaga,
key, whatever, stripping essentially, and then I'm pretty sure the episode just ends. And then it goes back to them talking or whatever, and that's about it. And Cortana's gonna show up in the next. Oh yeah, here it is. I knew she was in it for like a second, and then Cortana's going to show up in the next episode, more than likely.
Talk about butching. What am I trying to say?
Botching.
That's it. Cortana. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, this is gonna be like because cloning's like her thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the connection will come from like the little blue animated Cortana that everybody sees, but I'm pretty sure it's the connection to this specific clone of Dr. Halsey, because Chief has always had a connection to her.
Mm-hmm.
Which again, it's one of those things where it's sort of like there's a bit of Stockholm syndrome that goes on there, but again, in the hands of better writers, directors, and I have a hard time totally blaming the actors, because I think in the hands of a good crew, the acting can shine through.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I agree.
There's a lot that goes into this that causes the issues with the very robotic acting for one reason or another. And so it would have been an interesting dynamic in being able to learn about like Chief's connection to her and why Cortana matters to him. And, it would all work in the hands of better production, essentially.
Yep.
But yeah, that's about it, man. I don't know if you've got anything else you want to add to
Yes, I do have
episode.
something I want to add. Imagine, for anyone who was a huge fan of, it just came to my mind because you said acting, and it can really shine through. Then you said robotic, and anytime I hear robotic, my mind just goes to the criticisms people gave Kristen Stewart from Twilight.
Yeah,
and
Kristen Stewart.
And so the point I wanted to make is, imagine when they went to go to adapt Twilight, and that they changed all the characters, and made a new timeline, and they say, well, no, we're doing something totally different from the books.
And it was good?
No, I was going to say, and it was bad, right? Which is what this is. People would, the fans of the books, right, which was a huge base, because that's what blew it up, right, was the books. Then people would have been upset. This is the same thing. The story was made through a video game, which is a medium. It blew up. I mean, at one point, I think on Geeks and Gamers, the dude, what's his name, D-Day Cobra, brought up a good point. I think it was him. It was either him or Az, brought up a good point that at one point, Master Chief was as popular as Mario as far as video game characters.
In that early 2000, probably 2000, 2005.
I remember
Halo 1, 2, and 3. So maybe for about 8 to 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember, you had Red versus Blue, that YouTube channel. And they should have done that timeline. That would have been better than this, the Red and Blue timeline. And so what I say that to say, you can't attack fans for wanting something that they grew up seeing. That doesn't necessarily mean, again, I'll come back to this. You can flesh out things in an original way, but you need to keep faithful to the core of what Halo is, of what the fans want, right? And I mean a majority thing to it. It's funny because, to add on to that real fast, I've been watching the Lord of the Rings appendices, and Peter Jackson made a good point. He said every time we strayed away from Tolkien, and when we were going through the process of refining everything, it kept leading back to everything he already wrote, and finally we got to the point of we can't do it better than him.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, you could say the same thing about Game of Thrones. It's like the minute that they started straying away from the stuff with Martin, it started to feel wrong, and characters were bumbling around and didn't have anything to do in their stories, or especially the closer you got to season 8 and through season 8, characters started doing things that didn't make sense for their character arcs. And this is something people forget a lot, right? Because they get caught up in the drama of something. So the one that always bugged me the most in season 8 was the one with Varys, where he gets burned alive by the dragons because he makes this mistake. And I'm like, he'd never do that. It's like, this makes no sense. You just don't know what to do with him, so now you're killing him off.
Yep.
And it's like, and now you have completely ruined this character because he was this awesome, sneaky dude who liked to be in control and was always weaving and doing things in the shadows. And then you're like, oops, he made this obvious mistake, and now he's going to die. That's the kind of stuff that's bad writing.
Yep.
That's modern Hollywood writing for you. Where it's
just like CBS was probably like, oh, we need to hire that person.
Yep. It's like plot convenience. It's not well thought out, like a well thought out
nuance.
Plot. Yeah, there's plot. Not. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, man.
Nothing else for me.
Yeah. Well, that's episode 2, guys. Tune in next week for episode 3. If we've both survived this, It's the cure for insomnia. I can give it that. The show is the cure for insomnia, because this episode had me nodding a couple times, man, where I was like,
episode title, The Cure for Insomnia.
Gotta find a funny image of someone sleeping or whatever.
A doctor holding like a cure and a pill.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Don't forget that if you enjoy the content, subscribe, comment, do the whole deal. We try to talk to everybody in the comments, as long as you guys are actually saying stuff that makes sense.
Yes, we do. We love to engage.
So thank you guys, and until next time, take it easy.
Have a good one.